Welcome to the SuperFast Podcast, the place for information on healthy living, fasting, superfasting, diet and nutrition, and exercise. I'm your host, M. David Peterson, the author of the ebook, SuperFast, Fasting for Super Health, and founder of SuperFast SuperFit. Also joining us as co-host is JC Peterson. She's been following the SuperFast program for over 8 years. We both bring experience and science together for a comprehensive conversation on all things fasting, diet, and exercise. Please note that nothing on this podcast is meant as medical advice. We present our opinions based on experience and science for educational and entertainment purposes only. For any lifestyle change, consult your healthcare professional and never stop taking your medication without a doctor's approval. Now, let's get on with the SuperFast Podcast. Welcome to the SuperFast Podcast. It is morning here, so good morning. I am M. David Peterson, and I am your host. I'm also the author of SuperFast, Fasting for Super Health.
And I'm JC Peterson, and I'm the co-host today. So today we'll talk about a lot of things. Go ahead.
Okay. We're going to talk about hiking and exercise and how important exercise is. It has all kinds of health benefits, but many that you don't know because either your doctor doesn't know or he doesn't want to tell you, because if you start exercising, you might not have to go to him so often, and he won't make as much money as he wants to. And the pharmaceutical companies don't want you to exercise because then they're not going to make money. So they kind of hide information from you so that you will be unhealthy and so that you will take their drugs and seek out medical attention because you are ill. So that's kind of the frame of how this podcast goes. But we're also going to talk about how exercise fits into the SuperFast SuperFit program. That's why we call it SuperFit. We'll talk a little bit about my book, and we're going to talk about our last two hikes. We visited Kazakhstan, and then we went to a mountain here near us.
Right. Will be a very interesting experience to share with you.
So, JC, would you like to start talking about our hikes?
Okay, so since we talk about hike, we have to talk about what we need to prepare before we go hiking. I think if you like to hike or exercise, you will know some basic things you need to take when you go out for hiking. Like you have to wear comfortable shoes, hiking boots, right?
Hiking boots are best, but if it's not too hard of a hike, then if you're not going to go way up a mountain, then possibly just comfortable sports shoes or cross trainers might work. Right. But if you're going to be going across rocks and stuff like that, you need
very good
hiking
high quality shoes. Yeah.
High quality hiking boots. And then, of course, if you're going to be hiking in really cold on a mountain, if it's going to be really cold, then you would want to bring the claws. I don't even know what those are called.
I see, for ice, right?
They're for ice. You put them on your shoe, and they're actually metal claws that grip the ice, dig into the ice.
That's why before you go hiking, you need to do some research to see where you go, what you really need to prepare. Then we need a walking stick or trekking pole. That's very important when you hike, because it will really help you to keep balance and help you to go up and down, protect your knees, everything, right?
Yeah, I used to think that they were for old people. I thought they were for wimps and sissies, and I'm not particularly a manly man, but first time I used one, I was sold. I took a couple of steps, and I'm like, why have I never used these before?
Right.
And on our last hike, we visited Kazakhstan, and we met some young men there, and I was about to tell him, you really should have walking sticks because they do help, and even though you're young, they still will do you good. And I broke the subject by talking about my hiking sticks, how they help so much because I had them. And he said, "Oh yeah, I left mine at home because I couldn't bring them on the plane, or I didn't have enough room for them, or something like that. But I have them at home." And I was actually very impressed that this young man, and you could tell he was an experienced hiker, Simon.
Right.
And he already had it. He had all the gear. He had more gear than we had.
Oh,
so,
right.
Well, and we'll talk about that just a second.
So okay, so move on. Then this one is not necessary, but we sometimes wear buff.
Yes, a buff. A buff is very important. As a matter of fact, I have a buff right here. This buff has a picture of Kazakhstan Trail in the Grand Canyon. This is, and it says Grand Canyon across there. And this buff is over a decade old because it's the first present that JC got me.
Right.
And it is a buff. So let me put this on, and then I'll tell
That's
you
why they
about
call it magic buff.
Yeah. So this helps to keep your neck warm. You can put it up here like this.
In case there are bugs.
In the pictures that we're showing, JC has a buff on, and so it is really an important piece of equipment that you have for many reasons, and you just never know when you'll need it. So it's a good idea to buy one and then to bring it. Now this particular one is special to me because unbeknownst to JC, I had just hiked the Kazakhstan Trail with my daughter, so I realized that it had a significance.
I never know.
Many people didn't know. Anyway, so
you just mentioned how you use this buff, right? So for women, actually, you can use to tie up your hair, around your wrist to wipe your sweat. You can even wear like piece of underwear also. Can you imagine? So that's why it's a magic buff. Yeah.
It's one of those pieces of equipment that, again, like the hiking stick, I had never worn a buff really to hike before JC got me this one. And the first hike, I took a couple of steps again, and I realized that this was a very important piece of equipment.
And very nice decoration for picture taking.
That's good.
Okay, good. Move on. Next one. Next gear.
Sure. And again, JC was quite a bit more experienced hiker than I was. I was really coddled and pampered as a hiker. I hiked in Arizona, which they have some very tough hikes. So I was young. Very fit, and I could handle these tough hikes, but the weather was always just wonderful, and I would go during the day, and of course Arizona has pretty long days, and it's always nice and always sunny, so this piece of equipment I never really thought much about, but it's a headlamp.
Like what the miners will use.
Miners, yes, it's kind of like a miner's light on the helmet, but I had never hiked at night, and then when I met JC, we were climbing up a mountain. It had a lot of steps on it, but we were climbing up the mountain, and
in the evening.
And JC lent me one of hers, and I was hooked from that moment on. And it's something you might not really, you might think, oh well, I'm going during the day,
right?
But yet you
never know.
You run into some complications, or it starts raining real heavily, and it gets real dark out or something.
We'll share some story later.
Yeah, but then you could be hiking into the night also, and then you wouldn't be able to see, but with this headlamp you can. So
right. So next one, compass.
A compass to tell north from south, and to make sure that you're not going around in circles.
Especially for someone like me,
who has no spatial reasoning, so can't tell whether we're going north, south, or up or down, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one of those things that you hope you never need it.
Yeah.
So here is the headlamp, and if I turned it on right now, yes, just JC's headlamp. Yeah. If I turned it on right now, it would blind you. So be careful not to put this into somebody's eyes. And it's on your head, and you're talking to people. If you talk to somebody like this and they look at you, it will be very painful,
right?
Because they're very bright.
So then back to the compass. Of course, you've got the compass there, and it's okay. You got a thermometer there, and this is why, even though it is optional, it kind of isn't, because you have the flashlight. Look away. There you go, and you can do all kinds of things
Whistle.
with that.
You have whistle.
And you have a whistle.
Yeah.
So that if you are lost and you see somebody far away, then you can whistle, which I actually have been. I took a hike in Kosovo. Somehow I got lost. I got separated from the group. I was in an area that I had gone through, but there wasn't really a trail. So I panicked. Then I calmed myself down, and it's like, okay, I just got to calm down. I'm going to head toward that city because I could see a city.
Right.
No matter what trail, I'd eventually find a trail. And then I saw some people. Well, I didn't have this, so I had to kind
You
of
have to yell.
hurry up and then yell. So
Right.
the whistle. When I didn't have it, I needed it.
Exactly. We never know.
This last hike, we didn't need it, but
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. So it's a good piece of equipment to have.
Right. Okay. And it's not very heavy. It's easy to carry. So why not just carry one in case?
Put this one around your neck if you need to.
Yeah.
It's like this, and then you got it.
Exactly. Okay. So next one is the emergency blanket. Actually, I bought the raincoat, so I can use it as raincoat. I can use it as. So I saw some pictures. Some people even use it as a top of a tent.
A tent.
Yeah. So.
To keep the elements off
Yes,
you.
I
You're
got
looking at keeping the rain off you.
Right. I got the orange one. I got him a green one. So we'll talk about why it's so important for me, because I really had a very scary experience. Okay.
Right. So let me say this about the raincoat. You just never know. You could be leaving home and it be absolutely sunny, gorgeous, no clouds in the sky, and then you get to the mountain and all of a sudden the rain comes in very quickly. And of course, after just a couple more necessary pieces of equipment and supplies, we will talk about an emergency that we had. So
Right.
the next item is gloves, and our gloves are kind of thin.
Yeah.
We'll certainly, if it gets to be winter, we will get thicker gloves, but these have the plastic sticky thing. So if you're going down, if you have to grab a
Chain.
maybe there's a chain to help you, or
Or trees
rail,
or branches.
or
Sometimes you have
even
to.
trees or branches. So then you can grip them better.
Yeah.
And then they help a little bit to keep you from the elements from a little bit warm, that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay. The next two actually is about food.
Food, yes, food and water. So the first one is water, and
Important.
it is very important. We actually have gone with friends who didn't bring water, and they regretted it. But I have a funny feeling we should tell them the next time. Please bring water.
Yeah.
Because it reduced the quality of their hike. And you should never ration your water. Don't say, well, I need to only drink half to go up the mountain and half to come back. Drink when you're thirsty and when you want some water. And if you happen to run out, then just hope that you're close to the end of the hike.
Right.
But
So next one is about the food. We normally bring some snacks because you don't want to bring a whole big meal with you, right?
Well, and actually, maybe you do, because there is equipment that you can actually hike in. You can bring a stove, you can bring a pan,
Outdoor, this kind of equipment.
you can bring
put there.
you can bring
Yes, you can.
like condensed stuff that you only need to add water to, or you could cook an entire meal if that's what you want to
Exactly.
do.
That's the experience you want.
Yeah, we don't do that because we're just there for the hike.
Right.
We hope it's going to only be a day hike, but we certainly bring equipment and supplies in case an emergency happens, and especially now. But one more, and then we'll talk about that experience.
Okay.
So snacks, and there are many snacks, and your options for snacks are actually quite wide and deep, and there are things that you don't really even think you would be a snack on a hike. Like pickles, you can take pickles and put them into a plastic bag and put a little bit of juice in there, and then you have pickles on your hike. You just put it in your backpack. Of course, you have to take a backpack.
Right.
That's something we didn't mention, but you take a backpack, and so you have this stuff. And we've gone on hikes with people who haven't brought backpacks because they didn't bring walking sticks, they didn't bring backpacks, they didn't bring water, and it's like, wait, I didn't say this was going to be a walk in the park. We said we were going to hike, and not a lot of people understand what that is. From the pictures, you can see what a real hike is. And if we hiked for 11 hours before we got home. 12 from home to home, door to door, back to our home. And you need snacks. So as I was saying, pickles, you can hard boil some eggs if you are not vegan or whole food plant-based. We have had hard boiled eggs, and they come in their own little container. You just peel that off. Of course, you put it in a trash bag and hike that out. Even though they are biodegradable, you don't want to leave anything behind on the trail. So always bring a trash bag. And then
something easy to eat, something easy to grab and just eat.
Well, that's what the snacks are. And so the next one is trail mix. We made trail mix. You put some dried fruit in it. You put a whole bunch of raw nuts, except for cashews. Cashews are always a little blanched to get rid of the poison. So they're never actually raw, but raw nuts, raw seeds, and then the dried fruits, maybe raisins. We have dried blueberries. We've had dried cranberries that we bring along. At this point, don't worry too much about sugar. You're not worried about eating, so healthy, but you don't want to bring pure sugar also. So we put the dried fruits in our trail mix, and then we eat as much as we want on the trail. And those nuts and seeds, they give you a lot of protein. They give you a lot of energy, carbohydrates, fat, all the things that you would need. So nuts are a perfect snack to bring on a hike. Make sure they are raw nuts. It's everything your body needs. But then, you can also bring sandwiches if you have, the plastic bags to put them in. You can make energy bars if you have a dehydrator or even an oven. Cookies, this
bar of chocolate, something like that.
We bring bars of chocolate. Of course, we put cacao in our trail mix. So, but we always bring way too much food to eat on our hike. But again, it's one of those things that I'd rather have too much than not enough. You bring one energy bar that you buy, like a Cliff bar. Which I used to love Cliff bars, but then I found out that they're more sugary than a candy bar. So be careful of those kinds of things. But so let's say you bring a Cliff bar, which are very good. Then that's the only thing you brought. You eat that pretty early, and then you've got this long hike, and the energy maybe starts to drain out of you a little bit. You get a little bit tired, and then there's no way to recover. So if you have the snacks, you sit down, you take out your snacks, you eat them 5-10 minutes, and then you actually don't get the energy right away, but you then start walking and you start realizing, wow, that really gave me that little bit of energy that I need to continue with this long, beautiful, wonderful hike.
It's just like so many things when you're at home. For daily life, you don't think you really need it, but when you are on a hike, it might be very important,
It might save your life.
And you want to enjoy your hike rather than it's so scary, I don't want to do it again.
And we on our last hike, we saw people who were, one guy was pushing a lady from behind to help her up the
last part of
she was exhausted, and then there was one young woman behind her that just looked like she wanted to die. I mean, she was in such pain, so tired. Both JC and I just went, so tired, my goodness. And we had already gone up to the top, and we were on our way back down. But had she brought the proper equipment and supplies, she might have done a little bit better. In case of an emergency type of thing, is a good segue into the next topic, which is our last hike. So Big Almaty Lake is somewhere we went, and it was a really long, difficult hike, but well worth it. We thought we were going to Big Almaty Lake, but the first hike we went on, what was the name of that ski resort?
Shimbolak
ski resort. We asked some people, how do you get to Big Almaty Lake? And they were like, this is not that trail.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, we researched this. It's got to be this trail, but it wasn't. So we thought, okay, well, we're here.
Since we're here, we'll just finish
this hike. And you know, that's not the reason that JC wasn't prepared for this hike, but she wasn't prepared, and of course she'll tell you, but my idea of why she wasn't prepared is it was very warm. It was July in Kazakhstan. We were in Almaty on vacation, and it was summer, and it was always nice sunny days. It would rain for maybe 5 minutes, but very light, and then it would go away. Kazakhstan is really interesting because the weather constantly changes. They remind me of Michigan. When I lived in Michigan, the joke in Michigan is if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. You know, but Kazakhstan is a really wonderful, quite. It has European, it has Muslim. It's all mixed. Yeah, it's all mixed. Yeah, so it's a great place. But with the weather, you know, I was watching people, and they were actually dressed for the weather, and I'm like, wait a minute, this woman has a raincoat, but it was sunny 5 minutes ago. Why is she wearing a raincoat? And then it would get sunny, and then people would be walking with shorts and t-shirt, and they're amazingly prepared for the weather. Yeah. When we went to Shimbolak, the ski resort, we did find some really good hiking.
Okay, this is we're definitely not at the top, but we are in the middle of nature. Of course, there is man-made help to get up here. Just a walking stick would make this difficult. You gotta use these chain guides to get up here. Just beautiful. No matter where you turn, it is beautiful. Unbelievable.
But this is one of those hikes that turned dangerous because in the mountains, and we were planning on going up into the mountains where it would be very cold in July. So I knew that, and I was dressed for the weather, and I didn't really realize how JC had dressed. I don't really worry about her because she is an experienced hiker, but then I noticed how she was dressed. You wanna tell them the rest?
Yeah, sure. So earlier, Mark said that I'm an experienced hiker. You know, I'm really not, especially on this specific hike. I'm really like a
greenhorn, but she when she was younger, she hiked with some very experienced hikers, and so she got the equipment that they got, possibly not really even realizing,
possibly not even use them,
realizing why she would have them or why she would need them. And again, in her defense, it was beautiful weather in July, and so it was warm.
So I was wearing very comfortable, that's for sure, exercise like yoga kind of outfit. Then outside,
sleeveless, just kind of like a muscle shirt, and then the tights, which were all the way down to her ankle, but
and then the
very
thin skin jacket.
Coat.
Okay. Pretty much. And then it's very warm, even hot, right? I got sweaty, so I took off my skin jacket. I was like, such a nice day. And it's very light, so I like to hike light. We got to not very far, right? When we started to climb on the mountain, and it started to rain. Then we're like, okay, it's just
it's just sprinkling. It was misting, really.
Exactly. So we were like, oh, it's so comfortable because it was so hot. Then it started to rain harder and stormy and thunder. We can hear, right? And then I psychologically and mentally, I started to feel very scared already because I know I was underdressed.
And when JC gets a little bit scared like that, I'm not. I might push her a little bit, you know, because she's ready to turn around when it's misting, and I'm like, no, we're going to keep going with this.
Right.
And then we met some young men who were certainly dressed for the weather, and they certainly had the equipment that they needed. They looked like experienced hikers, and they were like, you need to go back.
Too dangerous.
Yeah, it's too dangerous up there. It's raining in the mountains, and you need to go back. Which, of course, JC took to heart and said, why don't we go back? And, of course, I'm a tough old fart, and I was like, no, we're going to go. A little bit of rain. Who cares? Come on, let's go. Well, I made the wrong decision, so that was my fault in this whole thing.
But the thing is, because you dressed properly.
Oh, I had layers. I was ready to hike up into the mountains, and I still at this point I didn't realize that JC was not prepared for that, because you know I could have pulled out a couple of things if it got real cold to make me comfortable still, and I figured she had the same thing. So we continued on. It started to rain harder and harder.
Okay, just missed the lightning that flashed. We're hearing thunder. Oh, there.
Oh, you can hear that. Yeah. And it's raining really hard
And
now.
it's starting to rain really hard, so we have decided to turn back around and try and beat the rain down the hill.
Oh my gosh.
And here's down the hill.
And we met two local people saying that we're dangerous
Yeah.
up there. And we should go
Yeah,
down.
two local boys, and they said, you should really turn around because it's going to be difficult to go down. So here we go.
Let's go. Quick.
And all of a sudden, I was soaked, and it was so cold, windy, and because it's actually at the top, it's snow mountain, right? Yeah. So it's so cold, and I started to shiver. And then very soon, I couldn't feel my hands. Then I got more and more scared because he was in front of me. He kept walking fast. I was like, I couldn't feel my hands. I couldn't breathe because the wind just threw all the water. It was raining very hard, all on my face. I feel like
At this point, we had gotten to where it was raining very hard.
Very hard.
And I was starting to get wet. Of course, I had a waterproof skin jacket on. Hers was not waterproof.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, I have this skin jacket on, but it was a good time to turn around. She was saying that she was cold. She was shivering a little bit, and you know, of course, all right, we'll go back at this point. And then the rain, the storm, really it caught us. We were caught up in it, and then we took a little video. So
plus we were still in fasting state at that time.
So here we are by these yurts. We're going to pass these, and we are in the fasted state. We started fasting at about 7:30, 8 o'clock last night. It is past 8 o'clock in the morning. 9:45 is when we left the top of the stairs at Mediu. So we are going to stay fasting until noon, which, you know, this is what we have to go up. And we're still in the fasted state for a couple of hours, so but we got plenty of food to break that fast.
I think we should get to a certain point, like when we get to the pass or half of the mountain.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Even though
Okay.
it's past 12, okay.
Yeah. If it's past 12, sure.
Yeah.
That's no problem. We got
We have to keep
7,
going.
8 hours
Keep
at
going.
least. So
Yes.
here we
Keep
go.
going.
We're going to keep
Let's go,
going.
let's go.
Peace out.
we were still in the fasting state.
Yes.
We had decided to wait until noon
Noon to break the
break
fast.
that fast. And
So at that time, and there's no shelter, you know, so we are like in the open area. So
trees. There were some trees that were so thick. There was a conifer tree, pine tree that was so thick that it was dry underneath, but it wasn't warm at that point when the storm was in there. It was a cold that had come in from the top of the mountain. It wasn't necessarily freezing rain,
Right.
but the rain was near freezing.
right.
And of course my jeans are getting a little bit wet.
Yeah.
And I only had on the one layer of jeans because it was summer.
Yeah, right.
So my jeans were getting a little bit wet, but it was no big deal for me. I was good.
Yeah. So then we think, okay, we better eat something. So I ate one banana Then,
Well, we got to under the trees part, and I'm like, okay, well, and at this point, I already knew that JC was going into hypothermia with all the things she was telling me. She can't. She's cold. She's shivering violently. And so it was at that point that I realized this was an emergency situation. So I said, keep moving. Keep talking to me. Keep using every muscle that you can, but don't stop. Keep moving. And then we got to a tree, and I said, okay, let's eat the bananas that we brought. And then I'm like, we have to keep going. Let's go. So then she started shaking really violently and was like, I can't go. I can't move. I don't want to die here. And I'm like,
the only thing I can say is I'm so cold. Then he asked me to talk to him. By that time, I cannot talk to him because I was so cold. So I was talking to myself. I was like, I cannot die here. That's all what I kept telling myself. Then we got to another.
I believe you said that out loud once or twice.
You heard it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, well, she's not talking to me as much as I'd like to, but I don't have time to stop and explain to her why she has to keep talking to me. You did keep on saying, I gotta keep going.
Yes.
So then we got to another tree, and we had a chocolate bar, and she was asking for that chocolate bar at that point. It's more than the highest amount of cacao that we could have in a chocolate bar in Kazakhstan. But they are actually quite famous for their chocolate. Not that I'm doing a commercial for them here, but it was very good chocolate. And so we stopped under the tree. I gave her part of the chocolate bar. I ate mine real fast because I knew we had to keep moving. And then I remembered that I had a couple of things in my backpack that might help her. So so I took out a hat that I had brought that would help to keep the rain.
And you give me your skin jacket.
I gave her my skin jacket. I put on her little tiny skin jacket and actually ripped it on the way down. But I thought, okay, well, I have more layers on. So she needs this jacket. So she took that. Now, there were a couple of things that I had, and this is if you listen this far, now you get a little golden nugget, because I had a couple of things that I could have given her, but I didn't even think of it. I didn't even think that this might help. I had actually some big, huge trash bags that I had bought. I brought like 3 or 4 of them in a roll. And if I had been really thinking, of course, when you're in an emergency and you're worried, you don't think. But had I been thinking straight, I had an extra buff. I think I had 2 extra buffs that I should have given her. I didn't even think about it. And then I had the trash bags that we could have just poked some holes for her arms and one for her head. And then she could have had an extra layer of rain protection. And of course, the plastic bags are just like the emergency. They're just like the emergency raincoats. Not quite as good. Doesn't have a hood, but it would have kept a little bit of the warmth in also. So I do regret that I didn't think about that. So if you're out on a hike, you're having this an emergency, think of all the things that you have that you can help. We met Simon and his friend, and they were sugar, and they were so prepared that even though we had gotten her a jacket to go to Big Almaty Lake, so she was better prepared that time. But I thought, where was he yesterday? Because had he been with us on that hike,
now I won't be worried. And he even has a water filter. Can you imagine? He just brought everything. I mean, he didn't really use most of the equipment, but
he was prepared.
And he even helped one biker on the mountain. He gave his raincoat to her, to help her. So
and then interestingly, they changed information, and she got it back to him.
And they had some coffee together.
So that was pretty funny. But so the moral to this story is, Simon says, bring your equipment. for hiking.
Simon says,
Because
exactly.
you never know.
You never know. And when you are in that kind of situation, sometimes you couldn't think because you were in panic. I was in panic. So I think Mark was worried about me. So he couldn't even think.
I was panicked because I was worried about her. I mean, I was going down the mountain thinking, what am I going to do without her? How am I going to explain her death? And so it was like every time that came into my mind, I was like, no, don't think that way. And I was like, keep moving. I was like,
every piece of your muscle. Now we were like,
it was like a drill sergeant.
Exactly. And that time, actually, the road was very hard to go because it's muddy everywhere, slippery. And then we were grabbing the chain there, and I don't have strength, and I was so cold and it was slippery. That's why I was thinking if I had gloves.
Yeah.
If I had gloves,
our gloves would have helped out quite a bit on that. But neither one of us were that prepared.
Right.
I just was a little bit more prepared with what we had. Like I said, trash bags and buffs and hats if I needed and that kind of stuff. So luckily I was able to use a couple of those for her. And as you can see, she did make it. But I said, you almost died. When we got down, I said, okay, now that we're safe and you're warm and we've had some snacks and stuff, I said, why did you dress like that? Why didn't you didn't come prepared? I thought you were an experienced hiker. You can't ever do that again. But all of my pent up fear just kind of came out, and I'm never taking you on a hike again if you don't get the equipment that we need. And
guess what? When I got home, that's the first thing I did. I got everything, and I'm thinking, what's more?
As you can see, she has prepared. I think maybe we could, if we're going on a real tough mountain hike, which there aren't many around here. If we do go on a really tough mountain hike, then there might be a few more pieces of equipment. Like we don't have the claws for the food. We don't have those at this point. So if you have a good hiking store, outdoor store near you, then you can get that equipment if you realize you need it. But research is really the most important thing. Research where you're going. Research the weather at that point. What people say, experienced hikers, what they say of that trail. And another moral to the story is when some nice young men come up to you and say, you really should turn around because it's dangerous, you might want to listen to them.
Right.
Yeah, because had I listened to them, this is, I made several mistakes on this hike also, as I reflect on it. Had I listened to them, we would have been, the storm still would have caught us, but we would have been so close to the bottom where the sun did come out and we did warm up, that we would have been fine.
Right. What I learned from this is the weather could change just very fast, especially on the mountain, And because when we went to Big Amity 2 days later, right? And also we started with very good weather, sunny, hot, but on the mountain it started to rain, and you never know. And the temperature could be like 10 degrees lower or more, right?
Yeah. I want to reiterate that we ended up in the wrong place, and you got hypothermia, but that's not the reason. We should have been as prepared as we were for our last hike here that we're going to talk about now. So it doesn't matter where you're going.
Right.
What if we would have been 2 hours from the bottom of the mountain? We only had been hiking when we turned around for maybe half an hour. So I'm like, okay, well, we're going to be able to make it before you freeze to death, hopefully. But it's still dangerous. Because the storm came in that quick, and we had to go through that storm all the way down. So, but what if we had been like 2 hours from this? She wouldn't have survived for 2 hours. So, so it took us like an hour because she was a little bit slower to get down. If she went into hypothermia and could not move, I would have had to carry her. And there were some places where I could carry her, but where the chain was too steep, I just wouldn't have been able to do it.
At that time, you have to throw me. So let me roll down.
Roll down.
It's faster.
That's funny, but not,
No.
Yeah.
Now we're talking
really
about.
Not funny.
Yeah. Now we're talking about it.
We went on a very what could have been a simple hike, where there were no problems, but because the weather changed, it was really dangerous. And so as a viewer of this podcast, never, ever have to experience that. Please be prepared if you're going to go on a hike, especially where there's no one else, because that was the problem. If we were on a nice, easy hike where there were cafes all around, there would be no problem. We'd just go in and have a cup of coffee when the rain hit, but that wasn't an option. So please be prepared.
It's 45 degree up a shortcut to Big Amity Lake. Yeah, good thing. Yes.
All right. Well, then our next hike was quite pleasant.
National park.
Even though it was, if we had not been dressed for it, had we not been prepared, it would have been dangerous.
Miserable also.
And miserable, yeah. So it was overcast, and
we still decided to go. Yeah.
Misty and rainy, and JC kept on complaining about the rain. Not because she wasn't prepared, but because
I didn't like hiking in the rain. Yeah.
And I don't like the rain normally, but I like it when I'm hiking because I'm prepared. I had everything that I needed, so the rain didn't bother me. My raincoat,
we even have a cover for the bag to prevent the bag to be wet from the rain. So maybe that's one piece of equipment you want also.
That's right, a rain cover for your backpack.
Your backpack, yeah.
Which I barely, Arizona.
You don't need that?
You don't need that.
Okay.
Even if it does rain and your backpack gets a little bit soaked, the sun's going to come out. It's going to warm up to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Boom! You're dry.
And you just wash your backpack, right? It's clean again.
Yeah. So we were talking about Arizona, but we were also talking about our new hike at the national park. And so that was the last hike we went on. We went on that last weekend, and we encourage you to hike for many reasons: exercise and communing with nature, and that's what we were doing. And it was really unbelievably beautiful, even with being overcast and rainy. The rain and the mist and the
so natural.
We were in the clouds,
Right, we're in the clouds.
It was a surreal experience, and it's one that I wish all of my friends could have.
And also, the whole experience just proved why the equipments are very important. And we brought basically everything, right? And
we were prepared this time. Yeah.
And I thought most of them we won't need, right? But actually several pieces that I thought we wouldn't. Actually, we did use something like the headlamp, because I thought we wouldn't hike that long and hike in the darkness,
We took a cab to the beginning of this national park, and we had to hike a couple of kilometers up a road to get to the entrance to the hiking part. And it actually is a nice park where there are tourist attractions. So it is kind of touristy in some parts.
Yeah.
But we knew that we would hike past the touristy spots, which means you hike past the tourists. And we saw, a lot of people, but then we got to the point where there was hardly anyone.
Yeah. The higher you climb, the fewer people you'll see.
Yeah.
So this time I learned from this gentleman. So he normally wears like layers. That's what he said about his outdoor experience, layers. So this time I wear like 4 layers. I had a down jacket in my backpack, just in case, because I learned from my last experience.
And I was sitting there thinking, you don't need that, but I'm not going to tell you
exactly
that because one of our friends, and I hope they watched it. They were talking about how the wife and the son took the claws, and they were going up into the mountains. My friend, who's a very tough guy, he's so tough. Everybody thinks he's like this god of exercise, and he's like a monster. He's just huge. And so you think, oh, he's always going to be prepared. Well, he didn't want to take the claws, and so he didn't. His son and his wife made the hike perfectly, even though they went over some ice. He fell 4 times, and he had great hiking shoes on too. So it wasn't about that. It was that he wasn't quite prepared because he didn't think he needed that. Like some people don't think they need walking sticks.
Right, exactly. So that
Yeah.
and
So I didn't think she needed. I didn't think she needed that. That was the moral to that story. I didn't think she needed that down coat. I didn't take it down coat.
he didn't.
But and she ended up not needing it. But
Yeah.
it's better to be over prepared
Exactly.
than under prepared.
And you just mentioned about walking sticks, walking pole, and I got two.
She took two.
Yeah.
She took two, and it's not an admission of weakness or anything, and I think that's what a lot of people think that,
Exactly.
that only weak people need that.
Right.
Well, I only had one,
Yeah.
because that's all I need, but it's a huge help, and on this particular one, going up. There were 3,000 stairs at this national park to get up to the top of the mountain. 3,000 stairs, and maybe that sounds like a lot to you. Maybe it doesn't. It's like 172 stories.
Probably.
And we live in a building where it's 30, actually 34 if you go all the way up to the top of the building, which I have. I've done that as a part of my exercise, but 172. So that it's quite a bit more and longer, 4.2 kilometers. So it might not sound like a lot, but it is. So that little advantage of having the walking stick where you can put it on the next step and your whole body can help you to get up that step saves you so much energy. Whereas, as we said earlier in the podcast, the girl who was so exhausted said she didn't have one. So she was using her specific leg muscle.
Or knees, sometimes you'll hurt your knee because you have to use every part of your body to get you up or down.
You're going to hurt your knees. And so, since she was working that specific muscle, 3,000 times, and then coming down, she's going to use a different set of muscles, but with no walking stick, she's going to use those muscles 3,000 times. Your muscle just gives up. You can't push your muscle that hard. So that's where the walking sticks come in, and they're very valuable. And so put it up and then help bring you up with your upper body. Yeah. Then when you're coming down, you put the walking stick on the stair below you, and you use your upper body to help you go down, and then that saves your knees. So we reduce
some pressure on your knees and everything. Especially for someone short like me, I did even more because no matter I climb up or climb down, my legs are just too short for those big stairs.
They probably have figured out from the pictures that you're short.
Right.
So am I. So that's we're a short couple, but that's,
and then especially that day it was raining, so it's very slippery.
Very slippery, and the attachment on the bottom that would help keep it from being slippery. I'm not sure what that's called, but also the wrist attachment on the in case it slips. I have told JC a couple of times to put your wrist attachment on, because if you're high up and you're using that and the walking stick falls out of your hand, it could fall hundreds of feet down, and then you won't have your walking stick. Whereas if you have the wrist thing and it falls out of your hand, that wrist strap, that keeps it close to you. We saw areas where there were waterfalls, but there wasn't much water.
Not in the season,
Yeah, it wasn't in the season for the water, heavy waterfall, but it's still the rocks that the water falls down, and it's quite a sight.
Yeah.
And then the leaves, as you can see,
started to turn different colors already. Yeah.
It's you have a lot of yellows and oranges and reds.
Red, a little bit green left.
So still green left. So I also had layers, which I had layers in Kazakhstan just in case, but not for my jeans. So for this one, I took kind of a water-resistant long johns underneath, and then so I had 2 layers on my lower body, and then 4 layers on my upper body, and that was enough. So my jacket was a sports jacket, and it's not polyethylene like a wetsuit, but it still is kind of that material where it's water resistant. So with a ball cap, and it has a hood, so I had all that. No problem with the rain, and plus if it's misty, since it wasn't a heavy rain, your body heat is going to, I had the long johns on the top too, plus some other layers. So then my body heat, when I'm walking and hiking up and down, my body heat will dry any water coming in my sweat, it takes that away. And also the body heat. But I was very comfortable while we were hiking. When we would stop hiking and snack and rest a little bit, I would get a little bit chilly.
Me too.
Yeah. So that actually proved that we had the right amount. Had she gotten really cold, she'd have put on the down jacket, right? But she never needed that. So we had the exact amount of layers and clothes that we needed in order to stay warm enough on the hike, but not too hot, and then not too cold when we rested.
Yeah. Well, also, we were wearing gloves at a certain point.
Yes, as we were coming down, finally, it was cold enough and rainy enough that she suggested the gloves, and I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. So I put my gloves on, and that helped a lot.
Very comfortable.
Going down also, yeah.
It helped us to grab the chain when we come down.
Yes.
Yeah, so gloves and this kind of thing, I never thought that I would need for this trip. And I still have the raincoat in my backpack in case if the rain started to be heavier. I might use that.
Yeah.
If it's even colder, I might wear my down jacket. Those things I didn't use for that certain hike. But I'm glad that I brought with me because I could use them.
Yeah, and she found the gloves as she was looking for hiking equipment, and she bought them, and I'm glad she did, because I never thought about those grippy. They have the
little dots kind
plastic on it or whatever it is, so that you can grip things with it. And I had never thought of getting those. We have gloves for heavy snow or cold. I knew it wasn't going to be that cold, but we brought these gloves along. We did actually use them, and we used everything that we brought along. Yeah. But it's those few things that we still need to talk about, like matches that we didn't have, which we should have, like a water filter. Yeah. Why not take a water filter? Yeah. We could have, it's a long shot. There are places that have water sources, and if you have the filter, you don't have to worry about getting sick just to survive with the water you might need. As I said, we were hiking for 12 hours door to door. Of course, that was a taxi ride there about an hour and a taxi ride back for about an hour. But it got a little bit cool. Pretty easy descent because of the walking sticks, and it wasn't raining too heavily, but it was still slippery. I know my walking stick slipped a couple of times, but not enough to injure me. But it did get dark. Yeah. It got dark.
And he kept saying he was glad that we brought our headlamp. And he even showed me, look, without it, how dark. Look, and because we don't know what kind of animals were around into us. So, when it gets dark, you never know.
Well, we didn't actually see any dangerous animals, but I'm sure that they were there.
Yeah.
And so this has 4 blue lights to show us how much energy we have in the headlamp, how good the batteries are, and I think it's because it's the first time I used it. It had 4, and then very quickly it went down to 2, and that worried me. As we were going down, I was worried that my headlamp would run out of energy. But we had hers. Yeah. So we were prepared, and I kept on saying that. Oh, I'm at 2 bars, but we have yours. So if we need it, you can get yours out. I never went down below the 2 bars.
This is also part of the experience. You start to use
a lower light, and
lower light,
But I also just to show us, just to see. I mean, it was an experiment. Right. I turned the light off totally, and it was pitch black. I couldn't see the step in front of me. Right. And so,
it could be very dangerous. That's why. And I noticed many young people, they tend to use the flashlight on the cell phone.
Yes.
You will need your cell phone at a certain point. You never know. You need to contact someone, so you don't want.
We haven't said that. Yeah. Bring a charged cell phone.
Right.
Even though you think, I'm going to be way out in the mountains and I won't have a signal. Bring a charged cell phone, because you never know what you
never know. The flashlight, I don't want, that will be our last resource. Yeah. We never want to use the cell phone first, because you need it to contact people when you have signal. So you use the right equipment, like the headlamp first. And when we even discussed if his run out of the juice and mine also, then we probably will think to use the cell phone because we have no choice at the time, right?
Yeah.
But it's good that we never really used even mine.
Yeah.
You know?
We were there for a leisurely hike. It wasn't, we didn't want it to be real difficult. Although this particular hike was probably the most difficult hike I've ever been on, and I've climbed Mount Olympus, and so you would think that the home of the Greek gods would be a pretty tough hike, and it was. I'm not going to say that it wasn't, but this one was actually tougher because of the steepness, the stairs. As you can see from the pictures, it was
insane.
Yeah, we read about this hike, and they were like insane stairs.
Yeah.
And I've hiked for a long time. This is 40 years going on that I've been hiking, and I thought when I read that, I thought insane stairs. That's ridiculous. There is no such thing as. I've hiked Mount Olympus. Come on. So we get there, and she told me that at this point, they said that there's insane stairs, and it seems like they don't stop. Well, this one, as you can see from the picture now, it was straight up, and you needed the chains to help pull you up. We had the walking sticks, so I didn't really use the chains that much. But those were insane, and you can see they're insane. But afterwards, we're talking like 20 stairs like that, and long, and they curve around, and the mountain, and
then we kept seeing like, it must be it. We must be very close to the top because it cannot be that long because we couldn't see the end. Yeah. But when we got to the end, we turn, then there's another, then there's another.
And I thought we were at the top at one point, and I'm like, this looks like the top, this looks like the top.
Yeah.
And I got to the stairs before JC, and I went, oh my.
It could be kidding me.
Oh my, what are you talking about? Oh my. And then, and that we missed it as we were going up, but when we came down, we saw that it said on the stairs, 20 minutes.
Yeah, to the top.
Yeah, and there were a couple more insane stairs. So they were insane. It was a very hard hike. So when we got down to the bottom, we were just kind of leisurely going. We were in no hurry. It wasn't an emergency. But the people around us who didn't have headlights, they were pumping it. They were walking real fast. They walked past us. They talked to us. Thank you for helping us, because we helped several people with how far are you going to go.
Yeah, and encourage them. Keep going.
And we did that because I got a little bit discouraged with these insane stairs, and it's like, when are we going to get to the top? And she was worried about getting to the gate on time. And we kept on hearing people yelling when they got to the top. They were, and that helped me to keep going, because it's like, okay, well then it can't be that far. But so when we were coming down, these people were like, how far is it? And I have pretty good spatial reasoning, so I was able to tell them, you're half an hour away, or we met another, and you're an hour away, and then we met another, and I was like, you're about an hour and a half away at this point. You can still make it. And we encouraged them, and they did, because they passed us on the way down. But then we stopped for snacks, and the people said, well, how far are we? And we said, you're about 2 hours now.
And they dropped. They didn't. I think that's a good choice, actually, because they have to come down also.
Yeah. And I was about ready to tell them when they got up, because they only told us that they weren't going to go the rest of the way when they got up to leave. And if they were going to go up, I was going to tell them, I don't recommend it. If you really want to go for it. But man, 2 hours, 2 hard hours, and then back down, you got a long time. So
in dark.
They were looking at probably maybe they could have made it a half an hour before it was dark, but then it's going to get dark on the way down. And luckily for us, it didn't really get dark until we made it to that, 2 kilometers to 4 kilometers of road that was at the end. So we were going pretty slow, and people were passing us real quick because they didn't have the headlamps. We did, and it was pitch dark. So well prepared. And then we did make it to the top.
We did.
That was nice, and we were very excited when we made it. It's like, finally, we made it to the top.
And we were really in the clouds at that time.
You couldn't see anything down. And then that's what one of the two guys that we encouraged at about a half an hour, when they passed us as they were going down, they're like, you couldn't see anything. And they seemed disappointed, but then I think they had to tell us that it was worth it, because we had told them that it was worth it going to the top. So when we got to the top, we saw this couple. It was so, I mean, we really felt for these people who were in pain. This woman was in pain. The man was standing there, kind of
try to comfort.
Yeah, comfort her, but what can you do for somebody who is completely exhausted? If she could have sat on the ground, she would have been sitting, but she was squatting because it was wet.
Yeah.
And she had some instant noodles that were sitting on the bench. She couldn't even sit on the bench and eat instant noodles. You could tell that she was completely exhausted, and she was at the top. She still had to go down.
When I think back, that explained why it's so weird, because we got to the top. Normally when you see people there, you will share the experience, because you all conquered, you all took the challenge and you made it. So I was so excited. I talked to them. I was like, yeah, you made it also, so great, blah blah. But they didn't respond like what I expected. Like, they didn't want to talk at all.
Yeah, they didn't look like they wanted to talk. So I just
excitement at all.
Walked past them and went to the very, very top. And then JC joined me, and I did my yell or walk or whatever you want to call it. At the top to announce that I had made it, and to give encouragement to the people
down below. See the top,
Also, kind of to celebrate getting to the top, and also to celebrate that we made it with no mishaps. We were well prepared. It was a fantastic, beautiful hike. We were ready to go down. So we spent a little bit of time at the top taking pictures, and then we headed down. No pictures going down. No pictures going down. I got to a couple places where I thought, I didn't get good enough pictures here. I liked this picture, but that camera was not coming out of my pocket. My phone was not coming out of my pocket, because it was getting late. I was ready to get home and maybe celebrate a great hike. With a little, maybe some beer or a little bit of wine. We're not teetotalers. And we were tired. I realized the necessity for leg day.
Right.
So we kind of, we exercise. The SuperFit program is SuperFasting, which is intermittent fasting. We fast 3 days a week for over 30 hours. A lot of people think that's excessive, but our bodies, it's the perfect amount for our bodies. And as we go through these podcasts, we will tell you why we adapted, we evolved, or we were created, whatever you believe, to fast. And we'll talk about that as we go along. But then the super fasting is we do a long-term fast every season, so once every 3 months when the season changes, and then we eat a whole food plant-based diet. We have some animal protein, but very little, and of course this is not a diet whole food plant-based episode. It's a fitness episode. So that's the third part, is fitness. And then we do a few things that also make us healthy, which will be my fourth book. So I'm going to have a book on superfood, then I'm going to have a book on superfit, and a book on super health. So we prepared through our exercise on a daily basis.
And since hiking, of course, it requires the whole body coordination, but you need a lot of strength on your legs. So he said it's like several days of a heavy leg day workout, right?
I'd say like 10 days of leg days. It was very difficult, even with walking stick. A very difficult hike, and I do agree with those people who said insane steps. They were insane. They were about to drive me insane, for sure. But we made it, and then JC says the lower body, and we'll talk about this in the next episode. And this is kind of our ending here. part 2 of this episode is this hike and how do you prepare for it, and why is hiking important as far as health goes. So working out your upper body, of course, resistance exercise helps to help you live longer, live healthier, live happier.
Right.
And so the hike, it does require upper body. As I was doing shoulder shrugs, the next workout that I did, resistance training, I was like, that's why I felt good with the backpack, because my shoulders are I'm fit and my shoulders are good. And then, of course, hiking and coming down with your upper body, going up with your upper body.
Yeah.
You need a full body workout for resistance training. We do a little bit of endurance training, HIIT. And that's why we, not trying to brag, but because people try and do these exercises without really being fit and healthy, we feel like we're superhuman. We wish everybody was superhuman, then we'd just be human, because this is what we're supposed to do as humans. So, we looked like we had a lot of energy. I remember one guy looking at me. He was sitting there drinking a bottle of water about halfway up. He quit at that point. I know he quit. He was overweight, a little bit older, not quite as old as I am though, but a little bit older. And he looked at me like, well, why do you have so much energy? And I just I kept on going up the stairs.
Yeah.
So, and this is why, because we fast, we eat a whole food plant-based diet, which is the optimal diet, and we exercise to get ready for these, and it made the experience that much more pleasant.
Right.
With that said, do you have anything else to add?
I hope this part of our chit-chat can help you to prepare better for a hike. Or maybe you are experienced. Maybe you can share some good advice with us, help us to be prepared for even harder hikes.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, you want to enjoy the hike, and then you can do more and more. Not like those, I feel sorry for them. People, they are young, but they are not
fit.
Yeah, not so they cannot enjoy that. Maybe that's only one-time thing for them. Maybe that's what they want. They just want challenge one time.
Yeah,
but for us, we want more.
Right, and the next day they're very sore, and my calves were a little bit sore, but nothing. Even though it's like 10 leg days, it's we're fit enough that that's not a problem. So, as JC said, we hope we inspire you. Hit the like button or follow button. If you liked what you saw in this video, give us comments. Leave a comment. Tell us about your hiking trips. Tell us about what you liked about this video. If we inspired you to go hiking. And then part 2 of this video will be why hiking is so important and what the health benefits are of exercise and hiking.
Right.
So, keep fasting and
keep hiking.
Keep exercising.
Keep enjoying the nature.
And have fun with it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
See you next week.
We made it. Yeah, I think earlier the pictures looked better than it did in real life, but now because of the fog.
We almost went back, right?
Yeah, well, I said in another video that we almost quit twice and we started going back. Come on, you just a few more steps.
Where's the sign to show the... Because there must be a sign here to show that... Crouching tiger.
You made it.
Yeah.
Yay. Yay. Yell.
you yell, so funny.
We made it.
You'll see everything down there is so beautiful, but...
well, one day we'll come back up here and there's the flag.
The flag there.
There's the flag.
Yeah, we made it.
We made it. And it was well worth the trip. It's a great hike.
Now we're just surrounded by clouds, basically.
Yeah, we're in the clouds. We're in the clouds.
Cannot see anything here.
Thank you for listening to the SuperFast podcast with M. David Peterson. We hope you enjoyed the discussion today. Be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe or follow button below. And feel free to leave a comment to let us know how we are doing. how you are feeling, or about your experiences with fasting. Learn more about SuperFasting and health by clicking the links in the description below, especially the link to Kobo.com to purchase the ebook SuperFast, Fasting for Super Health by yours truly, M. David Peterson. Remember, it is never too late to get healthy. Please understand that any advice or recommendations that we make in this podcast are not to be construed as medical counsel. We speak from personal experience and research. The recommendations that we make here are based on our involvement in and understanding of this lifestyle. The suggestions herein are the same that we might make to a friend, with the assumption that that friend would not just take our word for it. As a listener, you should do your own research to determine if this lifestyle is in your best interest. We hope that you find this podcast entertaining as well as informative. However, any lifestyle or diet or fasting change should be done with the supervision of a qualified medical professional, preferably one knowledgeable in therapeutic fasting. And please, do not stop taking or reduce any medication without consulting your physician. Join us next week for another SuperFast podcast. Until then, keep super fasting and stay healthy, my friend.